Greetings. I'm Reverend Dr. John E. Jackson, Sr., and I'm the senior pastor of the Trinity United Church of Christ in the great city of Gary, Indiana, where we are not just another church, but we are a culturally conscious, Christ-centered church committed to the community. We are unashamedly Black and unapologetically Christian. It's Wednesday, and I want to offer what we call Hump Day Homily, or some midweek meditation. 2020 has been a very difficult year, not just for COVID, but because of the deaths we've had to endure and witness. It's been some very, very heartfelt and heartbreaking deaths. And this week has continued in that situation. We all know about the passing of Chadwick Boseman, actor extraordinaire, at the age of 43. I'm going to say more about him during my Sunday sermon. Tune in. But then on the heels of that, legendary coach John Thompson passes away at 78. John Thompson, signature towel on his shoulder. John Thompson, 6'10", massive frame and massive intellect to go along with it. John Thompson, who played college b-ball for Providence College and was a standout there. John Thompson, who played professional ball for the Boston Celtics and won 2 NBA championships while with the Boston Celtics. John Thompson, who coached the Georgetown Warriors, taking that team that had only won 3 games in the season prior to his arrival, taking that team and turning them into a powerhouse that won hundreds of games. John Thompson, y'all, who coached some of the most notable and brightest stars of the NBA, from Dikembe Mutombo to Sleepy Floyd, to Alonzo Mourning, to Patrick Ewing, to Allen Iverson. John Thompson, whose players under his tutelage had a 97% graduation rate. John Thompson. There is this notable anecdote about John Thompson that the major drug dealer in the D.C. area had begun to befriend a couple of his players. He got word of it, and he sent word back to this drug dealer, "I want to see you in my office." The guy arrives in his office. He's sitting down. They exchange some calm pleasantries right then. And then John Thompson says, "Your time of association with any of my players has ended now." The drug dealer then responded that, "Well, none of your players are involved with any of my business anyway. You ain't got to worry about nothing." To which John Thompson then stood up from his desk with that massive 6'10" frame and pointed his finger right between the eyes of the drug dealer and unleashed a tirade of threats and telling him in no uncertain terms, "I said you will have nothing else to do with any of my players." And word has it that guy never had anything else to do with any of his players again, and there was no reprisal. This guy had been known to murder people, and John Thompson had told him in that profanity-laced tirade, "I ain't scared of you or who you have murdered." The guy never had anything else to do with John Thompson's players, because these were not just players passing through. These were people he was assigned to pour into their lives. It was more than basketball for John Thompson, which leads me to leave you with this. In his office, on his desk, John Thompson had a deflated basketball. He had a deflated basketball on his desk in his office as a symbol and a message to his players that basketball will come to an end. What will you do? What are your plans after basketball? How will you live your life after basketball? What is your life purpose beyond this moment of basketball? And what legacy are you planning to leave to touch lives that will come after you? That lesson that John Thompson spent his life trying to pour into these students is the lesson that I want you to remember. How are you making a life and not just making a living? What you do to pay bills, that's making a living. But more importantly, what are you doing to make a life? What legacy are you going to leave that will touch other lives coming behind you and help them have steel in their back to press on? What purpose are you invested in that has been vouchsafed to you by the divine? That's a powerful lesson for us to think about. John Thompson left a very powerful legacy to hundreds, thousands of students because it was more than a moment. His life was a movement. Is your life a movement, or are you just chasing moments? Think about that for this Hump Day homily. God bless you, and God keep you. And guess what? I am so glad the tomb was empty. Be encouraged.